Lenape Regional High School District Board of Education will be held on June 22nd, 2011, 7:30 p.m. Mr. Monahan has 30 minutes for his presentation before the board. This informal appearance is not an opportunity for a discussion with the board, and as such, the board will listen carefully to Mr. Monahan and/or his representative and witnesses.
Thank you.
Witnesses' statements, but will not respond to questions. We ask that you observe appropriate decorum. Mr. Monahan will receive a written response from the board based upon his informal appearance within 3 business days. Mr. Monahan and board counsel.
John Stapleton.
Pardon me?
John Stapleton.
John Stapleton. Thank you. Your 30 minutes begins now.
Thank you. At the end of new teacher training, we were taken on a bus tour of Mount Laurel, guided by our principals, Mr. Catani and Mr. Westman. And the message that they gave us that day was very clear. We needed to see the community that we came from, that our students came from, that we would be serving. Because we weren't just expected to be great teachers, we were expected to be the kinds of great teachers that our students needed us to be. At the beginning of this school year, Superintendent Capella spoke to us about the difficult political times that we face right now. And she challenged us to take the good things that we do in our classroom and to reach out to the community, to show them, to stand up for this school, and to make the community proud of what we do and what our students do every day. And I took both of these things very seriously. I was honored to work in a school district that expected so much from me, and that was there to support me at every step of the way to do just that. And I would like to just begin by highlighting for you 2 projects that I worked on well with my colleagues and my supervisors to try and meet the expectations that were set out for me on that bus ride. The first came during my first year at Lenape, when I was selected by Principal Catani to be part of his Classroom 2.0 project. He set up a meeting with me and Keith Patterson, who was then the head of technology. And when I came out of that meeting, I was overwhelmed by the responsibility that he had seen to put on me. I didn't want to let him down, and I worked really hard for the next year to try and make him proud that he had picked me to be a part of it. I worked with other teachers in my department to write grant proposals. I was on a 4-teacher committee that met monthly with our supervisor to try and design and plan the English classroom of the future. And it was a privilege to be a part of it that I owe entirely to Principal Catani, having the faith that I could do the job when I, at the beginning, didn't know that I would. The second project came from this year, when I brought technology into the mass media classroom and started a cross-curricular endeavor, that collaboration that brought 7 teachers help to come to be the success that it was. When we got on NBC 10, the 3-minute piece that it did, I didn't pursue that to get my face on TV. I didn't do it because I think I'm so special or I'm some kind of star. I did it because I was challenged to give my students the greatest experience that they could have in the classroom. And when those students saw that the world cared about what they were doing for homework each day, and the classwork that these 4 classes had done together, it was a tremendous opportunity for them. And when I felt like it did the most that I could do to get out to the community what we were doing in the classroom to meet the challenge that Superintendent Capella had put forth to us, that was the only pride that I felt, was that I felt like I had contributed to the team the way that they had asked me to. And all I want more than anything else is to continue to be a part of this team. Whatever I've achieved at this school, I know it is because I was expected to do great things by this administration, who at every level of the way supported me and constantly impressed me and pushed me to go further, and without whom I would not have reached whatever potential as a teacher I have come to occupy. I know that without question, whatever I've achieved is because of their support and their mentorship. I'm going to turn it over to my attorney now. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen of the board, Superintendent Capella, parents, students, my name is John Stapleton. I'm Dan Monahan's attorney. I'm also a resident of Eastern Township. If it helps, Brian, who cut a $50,000 check for you a few minutes ago, actually lives 3 doors down from me, and our children play together. I'd like to buy a little goodwill if I can with that. I'm honored to present here before you tonight. I want to start off by saying thank you for your public service. I think many people don't realize that most of you sitting up here today are doing this for free year after year, decade after decade, and we do appreciate that. And that also applies to Superintendent Capella as well. I think Mr. Monahan is absolutely sincere that he loves this district and he loves being part of it and he wants to stay as part of this team. The specific relief that we're going to ask from you tonight, I understand, and Mr. Shinsky referred to it before about a decision within 72 hours. We are going to ask you to make that decision tonight, if you will. These folks have been here for 2 meetings now. We're going to ask you to hold a vote, and that's it. And if you want to vote against Mr. Monahan, then that's your right, but we are going to ask you that you hold that vote and that you do so publicly. We're going to ask that if you want to deliberate, we're going to ask that you do that publicly as well, and Mr. Monahan has specifically asked that that be done. I also want to clarify at the start, there is no intention in this presentation today to try to embarrass anybody. There's no intention to try to rail against the administration. There are a lot of great things that the school district is doing. Your agenda is full of them. Track stars today, very important issues like the 5E issue, very important issues like the transitions program right here. These are great things, and nobody is here to try to undercut the administration. But what I am here to try to do and prove to you in the brief amount of time that I have, Mr. Shinsky, I would love it if you can give me a 5-minute warning when I'm finished because I didn't start my clock on time when you were talking there. Is that what you have here is a singularly gifted teacher, a transformative figure of a teacher. Put him to use. Put him to use for things like the 5E issue, because this guy relates to students in ways that most teachers can't. And that is not an indictment on most teachers. It is just that some people have unique qualities to get along with others, to draw the best things out of people. And that's what this guy does, and he does it all from all sorts of people. Parents, teachers, the students. They go out of their way to make this guy look good. They go out of their way to challenge themselves and to do a great job. I'm going to have 2 general sections to my presentation. First section is going to be basically why Dan is a great teacher. Because for whatever they want to state in the statement of reasons in a letter, I think first and foremost what you need to understand is how good of a teacher is this guy. After that, we'll get into the 6th statement of reasons. What I provide to you today is materials. They're large. I apologize. There's a lot of great things to say about Dan Monahan. We also try in those materials to point out to you every single possible wart that we could come up with. And I submit to you that those warts are not nearly sufficient for you to make the decision to not renew this man's contract. I'm going to refer, not in my words, okay, because those words don't really mean anything. I'm going to refer to the words of the students and the parents and the administrators who've loved this guy for 3 years. But I'm going to ask, as I do that, that you keep in mind our mission statement of this school district. And I know you know the mission statement, but I'm just going to repeat it here to get through it real quick. And it's also at tab 13. It's highlighted in your packet. Number 1, unlimited educational experiences. Number 2, a curriculum that exceeds the New Jersey core curriculum content standards. Integration of technology, expectations of higher achievement for all students and staff, partnerships with families and community in a secure, challenging, and energizing environment. This man, every lesson, every day, is meeting that mission statement. And I also want you to keep in mind Superintendent Capella's imperative conversation. I'm glad that she was speaking about it earlier today because I wanted to bring it up here. That it is such an important issue. And I thought that was a great letter. I read it. I thought it was a great letter. This man can be your tool in implementing it. Use him to do so. He is standing here begging you to let him back on the team so that he can do so. The community support. What you have in a packet there at tab 2 is a petition put together by the community. By my count, I'm a lawyer, I'm not perfect at counting, but it was over 550 signatures, handwritten. There's also an online petition. I wasn't able to print it all out in time. I apologize for that. The last count on the internet was that there was 200 signatures on that. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to say that there wasn't overlap between online and handwritten signatures, but it's a lot of people. In just about a week's time, they're putting that together with the petitions. You have letters and emails after letters and emails at tab 3 from parents and students talking about the impact that this man has had on their lives. And please, please do not discount them just because Mr. Monahan has asked for help from people. We understand we only have 30 minutes here tonight. What I would love, nothing more, I think that the best people for you to hear from really are the parents and the students. It's impossible for us to get them up and down in that 30-minute period of time. So we asked folks, we said, listen, if you want the board to understand where you're coming from, write them a letter or write me an email and I will print it out and I will hand it up to the board. Keep it to 1 to 2 pages, which is, I think, generally in line with the 2-minute period of time under the public comment. Give it an opportunity for them to hear you, what you want, because how does the board represent you if you're not willing to speak up and you're not willing to tell the board what you want them to do? So what are you going to read when you turn to tab 3 and you start reading the letters? Well, page 20, you're going to get a letter from Kathy Canote. She's a parent. She's also a teacher in a different district. She has a student who went through Dan Monahan's class. She knows, Kathy knows what it's like to try to connect to this youth. She knows how difficult it can be. She saw the impact firsthand that Dan Monahan had on her daughter. Her daughter is now up in the university doing multiple sports and really achieving up there. She walks around in her backpack every single day. She's got her English plans from Dan Monahan's class because they're that helpful to her as she writes papers in college. I want you to read the letter at page 9 from Robert Goley, the chairperson of the Mount Laurel Municipal Alliance, who for the past 3 years is spending all of his time writing a book about the future of education. He's studying what makes great administrators tick, what makes great teachers tick, and he's going in all sorts of different angles there. And he has a daughter who went through Monahan's class, and he just saw the impact that he had, and he just says, this guy, he's absolutely one of the best. He's up there with, I believe Bill Sang is a really heavily respected teacher in this district, and he says to me, he says, John, Bill is up there, Dan Monahan's up there, he has a couple other names, but this guy is of that caliber. I want you to read the letter on page 25 from Pam Wilczewski, who, on her own time, and simply because she had an idea, decided to create that wonderful community service event, the Dominic's House. Raised $150,000 or more than that. She asked people from Lenape, would you step up and help out? She didn't get a lot of people that volunteered. Dan Monahan was one of them. She wasn't at all surprised because her daughter, Amanda, who's also in this audience, went through that class, went through Monahan's class. She knew what Monahan was all about. Read the stories on page 1 from Lou Ann Robertson, who's had not one but 2 sons go through Dan Monahan's class. Read the story about the catastrophic injury that one of her sons suffered in an unfortunate accident that then required countless hours of extra work from a teacher. That teacher was Dan Monahan. That son is now in college and he's achieving quite well and he's flourishing. That's not in a small part due to the work that Dan Monahan was willing to do, not just in the classroom, but afterwards, the extra time. And this is a man who has his own wife and daughter. I'm telling you, you read this file, you will begin to think that he has a watch that has 50 hours on it. That's how much time he puts into this district. Read the letters at page 11 and page 22. I'm not going to give you the names of the parents. They talk about their children were B and C type students. School was a struggle for them. They took Monahan's class. You know what grades they got? It wasn't A's, they got C's. You know what they think about Monahan? He's the best teacher they ever had. A C student that says the best teacher he's ever had. Another one of them, by the way, the one on page 11, specifically tells you his son was a B and C type student. He's in college now. In his writing class, he was just invited to the honors program. They credit a lot of it to Dan Monahan. He doesn't do all of it. He's only one teacher of the many, many teachers that these students have, but he is one teacher that stands out in the forefront of all of their minds. And others are pleading to you in these letters. How to invest 3 years of taxpayer dollars in all of the training that we're putting into the teacher like Dan Monahan. 140 professional development hours. 90